Hey, welcome to the Getting Started series for Palette. So the first thing you're going to see after you signed up and have ensured you have enabled your agents like Claude or Codex is this screen where you have several options. This is where you start and select your path. Either you can decide to create a new folder, you could work from an existing folder that could be locally on your computer, Google Drive, etc., or you could start from one of our templates. In this series, we are going to create a new folder from the beginning. So in this case, let's call it the product folder, save it inside of my documents, and let's include the starting guide. All right, and we are in. So as you can see, we created the product folder. The first session has been started, meaning that we are now committing changes to this specific folder. And once we feel like we're done, we can save it. As you can see, the getting started guide is working. So it says, I just installed Palette Desktop, open this folder, it's empty, help me set it up. And luckily, I have the context layer of Palette installed as well, which is our second product that basically knows everything about what we do. It's our shared brain. And it can see I'm Christian, CPO and co-founder at Palette. So now it says, okay, is there anything you'd like to add that you're currently focused on? No, that's it. Great. Now the fun part. So what's a great workflow that we could start with? And in this case, I think the product specs sounds nice. So let's do that. Product specs. Awesome. So let's see. So Palette is trying to help me get set up and create my first workflow. In this case, it would be awesome to get some help to create product specs. So here it starts to explain what it wants to do. So the CLAUDE.md file is what guides your Claude. For Codex, if you have Codex, that's a different way to go about it. But in this case, Claude, on exactly who I am or what's important in this specific file. So it suggests telling that file who I am, as well as creating this spec command. So a command is something that I can access in the chat. I can just write / or I can find it inside my actions to the left. And in this case, it suggests a basic template, so a problem statement, a target audience, etc. The output would be ready to paste into Linear Notion. Does that sound useful? Yeah, that sounds great. Let's try it out. So as we're waiting here, you can see the Palette is actually working. It's starting to create files on the left. And if we click on this little chevron here, you can actually see everything that your Claude is doing. But now let's just collapse it and look at what it did. So great, it created the Claude.md, it created the specs. And now we can see on the left that they are inside the files. And we can click these. You can see the command is ready, the spec. It tells exactly what it does. And I can click run spec. It also started populating my Claude.md file. So what is this workspace, the context, how we work here, etc. And this is something you can keep updating as you expand on your folder structure. But in this case, we got the spec command. So let's try to run it. I can either click here or I can just click over here. Yeah, so I have this idea because often an output of your work is going to be either Markdown, HTML, or something like that. But especially HTML is a great way for humans to consume content created by AI. And it's a little bit annoying just sharing these HTML files in Slack, etc. So why not create a publishing feature? So I could just share a link, and maybe the people receiving that link could even comment on the things I've made, and I would get that feedback back into my desktop session. So let's write that. There we go. So I just wrote a little description here. Let's click send. Great. And as you can see, now there is a PID. So what is the problem? Audience success criteria, open questions, go to market notes, and so on. And as you can see here, the context layer of Palette is really coming into action. So of course, if you don't have context enabled, you would need to fill this out or utilize your Claude MCP to go in and fetch valuable information from your different tools. But in this case, because of the context layer, it already knows a lot about us. You can see it's writing go-to-market notes, referring to different customers using our service at the moment. There's going to be specific open questions, etc., based on our stack, and this is where context is amazing. Like a lot of this, maybe I wouldn't have thought about, or at least it would require me to reach out to other people. So this is a pretty great draft for an initial draft PID. So now it's ready to pass into Linear Notion. And I could utilize MCP here as well. But I think let's try to create an HTML file of what this might be look like. All right. So I've written a little text here. I want to create a prototype now based on this, so I can really showcase my idea to the developers as well as the rest of the team. So let's share that and just build a quick HTML. And while Palette is reasoning, you can see it's working on a lot of stuff. This might be a good time to showcase that you can actually just have several chats. So while your agent is working on creating your prototype, we could continue working on our folder structure to the right here. And one thing I'd love to do is that Brian, my colleague, has created a folder called the go-to-marketing folder. And inside of this, we have an overview of all our accounts, all the companies that use Palette. And I'd love to get a lot of the feedback in there into the product space here so I can work from it and help us scope our tasks. And this is where references comes in. So if we click this, we can basically reference a folder. And in this case, I can connect it and I can select that folder. Yeah, Drive, Palette OS, and we have go to market. There we go. So if we open this, it is now referenced. So what I'm doing here is that I'm saying that I'd love to create a folder structure around customer feedback categories by product, features, area, and basically get all the good stuff from the go-to-market folder. So I basically just tag the go-to-market folder like this. So in this case, I can say add and then go-to-market and then say go through those accounts. In this case, before it does any changes, this could be a larger task. I put it into plan mode. That means that Claude is going to look through the process and is going to suggest whatever it's going to do before actually taking action. I also have this little sandbox enabled, and that basically restricts Palette to the folder it's in. So let's disable that and give it full access to everything on my computer. There we go. And as you can see, it's going to ask to get access to desktop folders and other things. And in this case, I'm just going to say yes to a lot of that, and it can start. Let's go back to the other one and see what's happening here. All right, let's have a look at what HTML was made. So in here, let's go back and see what was created. Publish demo HTML. Oh, that's pretty cool. And as you can see here, I can actually view this inside of Palette Desktop. I could also open it in the browser if I want to, but basically we have a preview of what this feature might look like. So in this fictional scenario, I'm sharing a landing page that we just created with Claude Code, and it shows the features like being able to comment, and I can select specific elements. I could add my feedback. Hey, this subheadline could be better, whatever, right? And this is something I could share together with my PID to really help the rest of the team understand what I'm doing. So that's pretty cool. You can do a ton of stuff inside of this. It's basically only your fantasy setting the boundaries here. The customer feedback might take some time. I think we can look at that in a future video, but the point was you can have multiple sessions working at once. But now we created our first PID, we created our first command, as well as an HTML output that can really showcase your ideas. And this is a great way to get started with Palette Desktop. Try out these small flows, start with the Getting Started guide, and build your folders. In the next couple of videos, we're going to start building up this folder further and look into more functionalities inside of Palette Desktop. Thank you for tuning in.